Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
We have Scott here tonight. So I have my chorus. It is, I got to tell you, today was the best day that I've had in Huntington in terms of weather. Right? It was blue skies and just some clouds, but a lot of sun. It was brisk, and it remains brisk. But it wasn't wet and it wasn't cold, but it was just an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous late fall day. So I spent some time outside with the dogs, and they were happy and I was happy. And so it doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't get any better than this. And it's Friday the 13th. Woohoo! We'll talk more about that later. It's one of my favorite days on the calendar. Anytime a Friday the 13th rolls around, I am happy. Okay, we have Scott here, and he is going to light the candles for us. And if you want to follow along, we're going to be on page 2 of our Sidurim.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. All right, this evening I think we'll start with a different opening reading. We'll start on page 8. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. All right. Let's welcome Shabbat a little bit with some song. Lecha Dodi, page 20. Lecha Dodi, we'll sing verses 1 and 2 and 8 and 9. Top of page 20. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem, Nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, yamin u'smol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yadish ben partzi, V'nihi smecha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, bo'hi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzola, tochem hunei am segula, Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabila. And on page 22, let's just turn the page and let's read selections from Psalm 92, which is the Psalm for Shabbat. A song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. And in the Hebrew at the indented lines, Tzadikata ha'yifrach ke'erez balvanon yihiske shetulim beveit Adonai b'chatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu ojenuvun b'seva v'shenim v'ra'ananim yihiyu lehagid Ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. Now let's turn the page to 24 at the top. Page 24 will welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, that was Kabbalat Shabbat. We've welcomed Shabbat. We've eased into it a little bit. Didn't just jump right into it after this week, which is stressful in a lot of ways. But we've now entered into Shabbat, and we're on page 145, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, u'v'zman kariv, v'yimeru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam Ul'olmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha Brichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran ve'alma v'yemeru. Amen. Page 146, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Havorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Let's read together on the middle of page 147. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 148, we'll continue with Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shokveinu uvkumeinu, Nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, Uv'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu, v'orech yameinu, uvehem nege yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavat techal tasir mimenu li'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayu Advarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlektecha v'derech, uv'shokbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam liot al yadecha, V'hayu letotafot beineinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim leloechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. On page 151, let's read responsively. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped from the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of page 152, Michamocha. Michamocha Beilim Adonai, Mikamocha Nedar Bakodesh, Nohora Tehilot, Hosef Eleh, Malchutecha Ra'u Vanecha, Bokeyam Lifnei Moshe, Ze Eli Hanu V'Yamru, Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vahed, V'Nemar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov, Ugalo Miad Chazak Mimenu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ka'al Yisrael. Page 153, the top two lines of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. And let's read together. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 154, one of my favorite parts of the Shabbat service, Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית העולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. All right, we are at the central prayer for the Shabbat evening service, the Amidah, and we're going to chant pages 155, 156, and 157 together, and then you're going to go silently on your own 158 through the end on 167, and you can read the prayers in Hebrew, you can read them in English, or you can offer up your own prayer at this time. Page 155 to start. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'mevii Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Atarab Lahoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim, Umatir Hasurim, Umekahayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micham Hocha Baal Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hametim. All right, let's continue together on page 160. Let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. Let's turn to page 163 for some gratitude. We'll read responsively. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
And let's turn to page 164, and we will close out the Amidah as traditional with the prayer for peace. Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha livarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Let's read responsively in the English. Grant us peace, our most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes.
Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart.
Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivorech et amo Yisrael v'shalom. All right, we're going to jump ahead to page 253 for the Mishaberach, the prayer for those who are ill. If you have anyone who needs a little extra healing this Shabbat, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart. Page 253 in the middle. Mishaberach avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu Mekor habracha li'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Let's jump ahead to page 258 and 259, the prayers for our community, for our congregation, for our country, and for Medinat Yisrael, the state of Israel. Let's read these all together. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Avinu Shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'Go'alo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. Hagen Aleha Bi'evrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha L'Rasheha, Sareha V'Yoetzeha, B'Tachneim B'Eitzah Tova Milfanecha, B'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, B'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha, B'Nomar Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them in your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Let us all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Yay! It is, this weekend is Parashat Chaye Sarah, literally the lives of Sarah. And this week we find out she died. All right, so it's kind of an interesting way to introduce the fact that we're going to be talking more about the death of Sarah than the life of Sarah. But we learn of her death. She was 127 years old, according to the Torah. And Abraham mourns her. Right? It's interesting that the Torah doesn't really tell us a lot about how our ancestors handled death. There's some hints, and on Sunday's class we'll talk a little bit about that. But Abraham mourns her, and he does three things that actually form the backbone of how we mourn people. Right? He speaks about her. He gives her a hesped. He gives her a eulogy. He says nice things about her. He cries. Right? He weeps for his loss. And then he gets up. He ends the mourning. Right? So he doesn't stay in mourning for the rest of his life. He said his goodbyes. He's felt sad. And then he gets up. And then ultimately he wants to bury her. And we have one of the great set pieces of the Torah when he sits down to negotiate the cave that he wants to buy. He wants to buy a double cave, and he wants the little piece of land that goes with it. And he goes to the town council, and he says, listen, I need to bury my wife. There's this cave. It's on a piece of land. I want to buy it. And the person who owns it is a guy named Ephron the Hittite. And he says to Abraham, no, don't worry, take it. It's yours. I'm not interested in any money. Now, most of us would leap at that and say, oh, great. I get to save money. I get this piece of land for free. But Abraham declines. He doesn't want a gift. He wants to buy a piece of land in the land of Canaan. And what's interesting about this is that this is the very land that God says to Abraham, this is going to be the land that your descendants have. I'm going to give this land to your descendants. But Abraham, in a way, seems to be hedging his bets a little bit. He's buying a piece of the land that will always be his. And so he negotiates. And they go back and forth, and Ephron says, no, take it. And Abraham says, really, I can't. And Ephron says, take it. And Abraham says, really, I can't. And then Ephron says, listen, what's 400 shekels between us? And now if you know that anything about Middle Eastern culture, that's the starting point for the haggle, right? You get somebody to name the price, and now you go back and forth a little bit. Abraham says, nope, that's fine, 400 shekels, up, done, sold. And he pays the full price. But what he gets is the cave at Machpelah. He gets a piece of land that will be his, no matter what. And for us, this becomes the burial site for Abraham, for Isaac, for Sarah, for Rebecca, for Jacob, and for Leah. Rachel gets buried somewhere else because she dies outside the land of Canaan. She dies and is buried on the side of the road. So we have the kever, the grave of Rachel, but we have the cave at Machpelah. And this is in Hebron, right? And it exists to this day, and it causes some tension between the Jews and the Muslims who live in Hebron. But we have it; it's ours. It's the cave at Machpelah. So after that little set piece, we get another set piece where Abraham decides it's time for Yitzchak to have a wife. And so he sends Eliezer, his most trusted servant, to Abraham's homeland. He doesn't want his son marrying a Canaanite. He doesn't want him marrying a Canaanite. So he sends Eliezer back, and Eliezer sees Rivka. And we're going to talk a lot more about her tomorrow. But he notices how kind she is. She offers to give him water, but she also offers to water all of his camels. Now, it's not like she's walking around with the hose and she's going to hose them all down. She has to take her water bucket, her water jar, and schlep back and forth from the well to the camels, from the well to the camels. And, these camels are thirsty. So it's not like one jar per camel. It's multiple jars for the camels, and he had multiple camels. So she does all of this, and he is very impressed. And so he meets with her family, and the match is made. The match is made. But ultimately, before they seal the deal, they ask Rivka. They say, do you want to do this? And she says, yes. She does. She agrees. But they asked her. And then they go back, and she sees Yitzchak, and she jumps off of her camel. And she goes to him, and he finds comfort in her. And this is in the Torah, we get one of the firsts, right? The Torah is filled with a lot of first things, but this is the first time the word love is mentioned. Vayeh ehaveha, and he loved her. It's the first time in the Torah that somebody says that they love their spouse. Adam and Eve don't. It's not said. Noach and his wife, Abraham and Sarah don't say it. But it says that Isaac loved Rivka. And it's interesting to note about Isaac and Rivka that he is the only one in the main. He's the only main character in the book of Genesis who only has one wife. Abraham, we're going to find out that right after this story, he remarries. Jacob has 2 wives and a couple of concubines. So Isaac is the only one who has one wife. So then we get to the end of Abraham's story, and he marries this woman named Keturah. And everybody says, all the commentators say, well, who is Keturah, right? We've never heard of her before. And Rashi says, well, that's Hagar. He goes and he finds Hagar, and he marries her. And what's so very interesting about this story is that almost immediately they have 6 children, or 6 male children who are named. Right? It's amazing. He and Sarah had such difficulty getting pregnant, and he marries Hagar and six kids. Then Abraham dies at age 175. And it's interesting that Ishmael and Yitzhak, his 2 sons, come home to bury him. And it's the end of an era. It's the end of the first patriarch. And the story of Abraham and Sarah draws to a close, and Isaac and Rebekah are going to rise up for the next part of the book of Genesis. Okay, so for the next part, I have 2 things that I want to talk about. And so I thought we would do them both today, because this week was a week in which we observed Veterans Day. It always falls on November 11th. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, it's the 11th, because World War I ended on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, right? November 11th. And when I was growing up, veterans seemed so old, right? And I remember World War I veterans. I knew World War I veterans who lived in my community, and I knew World War II veterans and Korean War veterans. And I remember the boys coming home from Vietnam. But the veterans who showed up at the parades, this was back when we still had Veterans Day parades, they look so old. Now they all seem so much younger. Whenever I meet a veteran, right, they're in their 30s. And I realize that some of the veterans that I met probably were as old as I am. But when you're an 8 or 9-year-old kid, anybody older than 12 is ancient. And even 12 might be pushing it, right? But I think we should have more than a day for veterans. We should have a Veterans Month in which we celebrate them and we thank them, and we're grateful for what they've done for us, right? Through their service, they put their lives on the line so that we could be safe, so that our freedom can be protected from enemies who would want to take it. And so if you know a veteran, or if you are a veteran, I say thank you to you. And if you know a veteran, go out and say thank you. You have the rest of November. I'm declaring it here. November is Veterans Month, and we treat them special during November. But really, I hope someday that there's no need for a Veterans Day. Right? Someday, I hope there's no need for an Army or a Navy, an Air Force, or the Marines. Someday, I hope that there's no need for violence, that we've learned how stupid going to war can be. Tremendous waste of life, tremendous waste of resources. And life is the most precious resource we have. The book of Isaiah says, Lo isagoy el goy, cherev lo yilmadu od milchama. The prophet Isaiah says that he hopes for a time where nation will not rise up against nation. Nation will not take a sword to another nation, and they won't learn war anymore. And so I hope that happens speedily and in our day. This week, it was also the 31st anniversary of the Mauerfall, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Something that when I was growing up, I never thought would happen. I only dreamed that it would happen, that I'd be able to go from West Berlin into East Berlin and back again, and that there wouldn't be a West and an East Berlin, there would just be Berlin. And it happened. And Angela Merkel said that dreams can come true, right? And so, if Berlin could be united, if the Mauer could fall, there's no limit to what we can do to bring peace to the world. Things don't have to stay the same. Things don't have to always be on the brink of violence, right? We can change. We can change for the better. And we end all of our major prayers with a plea for shalom, for peace. But what I want to say now, more than any other time, is that it's time to stop just praying for peace. It's time to go out and work for peace, to get our hands dirty, to be an or lagoyim, to be a light unto the nations, not just as Jews, but as Americans. All right, now is the time to work for peace. It's time to start. All right. Today is also one of my favorite days of the calendar. It is Friday the 13th. I absolutely love this day. It has nothing to do with the horror movies that came out or anything like that. It's just, I like the number 13. All right, I think it's a great number. Now, people don't like the number 13. If you go to big buildings in America, there's no 13th floor. If you go to Israel, there are 13th floors. Right? And this fear of the number 13 for somehow being unlucky, they even have a psychiatric a phobia named triskaidekaphobia, right? The fear of the number of 13. And that comes to us, we're not 100% sure where this fear comes from. I do know that there's a Norse myth where there was in Valhalla, that's their paradise, there was a big party and 12 people were invited. And Loki, the god of mischief, shows up, making himself the 13th. He was not invited. And he gets angry and he kills one of the gods named Balder. And this god was beloved. And so there's, in Norse tradition, the number 13 is unlucky. In Christianity, the number 13 is unlucky because at the Last Supper, there were 13 people. And Judas Iscariot was the 13th, the guy who winds up being the great betrayer. He was the 13th. And so the Christians had this wariness of the number 13 because of that. And then ultimately, when they pick Judas's survivor, a man named Stephen, who would become, in essence, the 13th out of the 12, the 13th, he winds up being stoned. So 13 is not a lucky number in the Christian tradition. And Friday the 13th comes to us as a bad day from 1307. It goes back to 1307 when King Philip IV of France arrested hundreds of the Knights Templar. And a number of them, most of them were later executed, burned at the stake as being heretics to the church. All right, so there's some baggage that comes with this, and fear of Friday the 13th. There's a phobia for that too. I think everything has a phobia, and this is called paraskevedecatriophobia. Scott, the resident psychiatrist, is chuckling at that. Okay, it's a long word for a small fear, right? But for us as Jews, the number 13 is infinitely a lucky number. It is a great number for the Jews. We don't hide. We like gematria, right? We play with numbers all the time. The word chai is 18, therefore 18 is a lucky number. But just look at where all the 13s are in our tradition. The bar and bat mitzvah age, 13. The number of months in a full lunar year, 13. The number of commandments, 613. 13, says Scott. In the Torah, God has 13 attributes that we are to imitate. God is kind, God is patient, God is loving, God is forgiving, right? Those kinds of attributes. The great philosopher Maimonides had 13, not 11, not 14, not 12, 13 principles of faith that all Jews should believe. Right, so we are stocked up on 13. But you say, Rabbi, that's all religion. Let's talk talkless here, right? 13, it's an unlucky number. It has nothing to do with religion. Well, in Israel in 1948, when Israel formed its first provisional government, guess how many members it had? 13. Why? They said because they wanted to have good luck with this new government, so they chose 13. But I'll take it a little bit deeper. Something that I didn't know until I was doing some research on this for tonight, that if you take a look at the back of a dollar bill, the eagle that's on this great seal, it's holding 13 arrows. And if you look at the olive branch in its other claw, it has 13 leaves. And if you look at the flag on it, there are 13 stripes and 13 stars. You say, but Rabbi, that's because there were 13 colonies to start off this great country of ours. So not everybody fears the number 13, and it can be quite an auspicious number. And so for Friday the 13th, in our tradition, it is a phenomenal day because Friday leads us into Shabbat. But all that God created on Friday in the Torah, God says at the end of that creation, everything is tov me'od. Everything is very good. And so if God says Friday is tov me'od, and we know that 13 is good, well, then Friday the 13th for us, I would say, is tov me'od, 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 me'od. It's very, 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 very good. It's a special day, Friday the 13th for us. And so I wish what's left of the Friday the 13th, we have a handful of hours left, that I hope it is a great day and a wonderful day, as well as being that you all have a Shabbat Shalom and a good Shabbos. All right, Scott, guess what time it is? It's time for, wait for it, not Aleinu. No.
L'chadodi.
It's time for L'chadodi. We're going back. We are going back. No, it is time for Kiddush. Back on page 4. And since we're going to be back on page 4, we might as well start all over again. All right, we'll go back to L'chadodi, do the verses that we normally skip. Now, we are on pages 4 and 5 for Kiddush. Vayhi erev, vayhi voker, yom hashishi. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto. Kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzevanu. V'shabbat kodsho bi'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lemahaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lamikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta V'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. All right, page 282 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'ateit g'dulal hiotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzo Velo samanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, תגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושך יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבתה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. Let's read together on page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. This week we observed the following yahrzeits: Joseph Burke, Constance Kaplan, Ruth Eggel's mother, Louis Levy, Bob's father, married to Sally and had two children, Lois and Bob. Ruth Levy, Leon Levy's wife, Bob's aunt. Joseph Paderewski, friend of Valerie White. Sarah Skoll, Barrett's mother. Harold Friedman, husband to Shirley Green. Joanne Gellen, wife of Ed, mother of Patrick and Jessica. John Loudfoot, relative of Beryl Carand. Stella Skolik, Stephanie's mother. Alexander Kagan, Harold's brother. Mary Louise Lohr, PJ Scar's mother. Enid Neufeld, Mark's mother. Miriam Greenstein, Murray Greenstein's mother. Sarah Solomon, relative of Joe Horn. Ellis Clay Ambergy Sr., Judy Lundy's father. Husband to Phyllis. Larry Levine, husband of Janice, brother of Chuck, father of Kevin and Derek. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us always. May they all rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam l'omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shmei dekudisha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos.
I want to say yasher koach to my tech guru, Scott, for being here this evening. Sam and James are fine. They are at Marshall for I believe it's the 50th anniversary. Is it 50th?
Yeah, I think so.
Of the plane crash 50 years ago, and the university has all sorts of things planned for the families this weekend. So that's where they are. Services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. right back here, and then again on Sunday morning at 9, and Sunday afternoon, Sunday at 3 p.m. we'll have a class on death and dying. What does the tradition say about death and dying? And we'll talk about Jewish practices for burial and things like that. And then a week from Sunday, we'll have the second part of the class. But then on the 22nd is the congregational meeting. And that'll be out through Zoom. And I think you probably have gotten your Zoom invite by now. But so mark it that's next Sunday. I think it's at 6. Check your email for it just to be sure. But in between now and then, on Wednesday, wait for it. Yes, it is the best little Yiddish choir anywhere, brought to you by Scott and Tam. And so if you want to get your Yiddish on, if you want to sing, or if you just want to hang out with friends old and new, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, that's the Yiddish choir for you. And you'll get your Zoom link. But I tell you, if you already have a Zoom link, it's always good. No worries there. Let's see who says hello to us tonight. I can see it from here tonight. Judith Lance, Shabbat Shalom to you all on this beautiful November 13th. Yes, I'm back to you. It was a stunning day. Jay Bro says Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Melanie Samuels from Brooklyn. And Friday the 13th is also Shabbos. Yes, this means the good outweighs the bad. Best to all. You've got it. And Suzanne Hertz says Shabbat Shalom to everybody from Murray and Suzanne. Well, Shabbat Shalom to you too. All right. I think that's it for this Friday night. Let's close out with Adon Olam on page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefza Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'Achareit Kiklot HaKol Levahado Imloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hoveh Vehu Yeh B'tifara Vehu Echad V'ein Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachbira Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit V'lo Haoz V'hamisra Vehu Eidli V'chai Goali V'tzor Chevli B'Eitzara Vehu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi Biho Mekra Biahado Avkid Ruchi V'eti Sham Biahira V'im Ruchi Giviati Adonai Li V'lo Hira. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon.
All right.